Good morning, everyone. Another wonderful day. Isn't it good to be alive? Isn't it good to be here? Isn't it good to have friends? The three toughest things for a human being to do is to return love for hate, include the excluded, and admit you're wrong. Do you know there's some people, I'm convinced, live and die and never admit they're wrong. Now, they know they're wrong. Didn't say that, but I mean admit it. Admit you're wrong to someone. I wonder how many spouses there are in here that's ever been able to say to their spouse, you know, I was wrong. It's difficult, isn't it? Well, those three things that I mentioned, for you to truly be Christian, you've got to be able to do them all. Matter of fact, it becomes the important thing in your life. To be able to admit you're wrong, to be able to return love for hatred, and to include the excluded. Now, that's really not my topic today, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit as we wake up. Like Elton didn't wake you up, you know. I think it's relatively clear what it is to return love for hatred. We could talk about that a long time, but that's not my aim. I want you to think about it. Remember, what we're working here at all week is trying to help you to loud. Come on, say it loud. There you go. So I just want you to begin to think about this. And when you just think about the fact that you know it's difficult to return love for hatred, that's a level of understanding. What if you never think about it? You just go through life dead, asleep, born of the flesh but not of the spirit. See, the spirit's awake. The flesh can walk around asleep. It just does, doesn't it? So let me talk a little bit about what it is to return, to admit you're wrong. And I'd like to ask each one of you to begin to practice this with somebody around you. When you find yourself with your spouse and maybe you've had some kind of heated discussion and you think about it a little bit, I'd like you to come to the place where you can go to him or her and say, you know, when I said things like this and this and this and this, that just isn't right. That's wrong. I was wrong. I want you to practice that because you cannot walk this walk without learning to admit you're wrong. It is an impossibility. And let me tell you something. Everybody in this room, including his truly, will do something wrong today. Don't be afraid to admit it. And if you'll practice it a little bit, it'll become easier. Practice makes perfect. To include the excluded. That's one that I think is so foreign to us that it's almost impossible for you to think about as I admit it, as I say the words. I can remember when I thought to include the excluded was you would change your mind and think like me and I'd include you. That was including the excluded. No, to include the excluded is to be strong enough to leave your position and go take yourself into the other person's situation. That's how you include the excluded. You don't ask them to come to your place. Do you understand that? Let me try to help you see it a little more clearly. We're all Christians in here. Jesus left heaven to come to earth to include us in heaven. There you go. He didn't tell us to straighten our act up, but he came here to reveal to us what it is. In our church, if we ever get strong enough, we'll be able to go to people who have other beliefs and demonstrate our beliefs and won't lose our faith. Y'all know that 30 years ago, you and I couldn't go to another church, could we? It was a mortal sin. Can anybody in here share with me why you think that the hierarchy didn't want us going to other churches? We'll leave our faith. That's because our faith is so crappy.
Crappy faith.
Crappy faith. That's from a fisherman, you know. Crappy faith from a fisherman. But
Faith without action is dead.
yeah, but you know what I mean. And I've had people tell me, David, when you talk to me, I think I'm going to lose my faith. Well, if I can talk you out of your faith, you probably ought to lose it. It's not any good. Think about that, folks. If your faith is good faith, another person can't talk you out of it. That's ridiculous. It's when it's just a bunch of junk. You know, it's something that somebody's given to you and you don't understand it, and it's really not meaningful in your life except in that little group. You don't know how to share it at work because you think it's ridiculous. Y'all know that? You know, there's a lot of people can't share what they're taught to believe at work because it don't talk in front of other folks. Let me tell you that real faith talks in front of anybody. Amen. It talks to anybody. Charlie could be invited to talk to the Senate in Tallahassee, and he'd go talk the same words. It talks to anybody. You understand that? And you know what? It'll move anybody.
That's right.
If they'll listen to you. See? So we got to get out of this narrow faith that is driven by fear, and we've got to get into the real stuff. That's what we're doing this week, trying to help us get into something that's real, because when you experience reality, and God is surely reality, isn't He? Amen. When you experience reality, no one can destroy it. Peter, you going to leave me too? Lord, where's there to go? There isn't any place to go. I believe that's happening in the church today. And we're going to get strong enough that you could go live with the Hindus and not become one. Or you could go live with Jehovah's Witnesses and not become one. You understand? Because you would really believe what you believe. So please don't be afraid of losing your faith. If it's that easy to lose, it's probably not any good. I welcome anybody to, if they want to spend the time with me to try to change my faith some, do it. Because if it needs changing, come change it.
That's right.
I'll be the first to tell you. I've had people throw all kind of beliefs at me. And I'll tell you, there's sometimes that my ear will perk up and I listen to certain things, and there's certain times I just say, well, you know, give me a break. That's ridiculous. Okay? If you're going to learn to include the excluded, and if we're going to evangelize the world, you're going to learn to do that, because it is being able to do that is the beginning of evangelization. It's the beginning. You know, most of us think we evangelize with our mouth, don't we? Evangelize with your life.
Amen. Amen.
And then speak the things that you're living. Okay? Most of our preachers that are popular preachers today, they're preaching something. You go spend a little time with them, you'll see they don't live that at all. You know? Hey, I'll tell you what, I could name a few names, and these folks that are standing up telling everybody to come up on the stage and I'll heal you, when their wife gets sick, they rush them to the hospital. Amen. Y'all hear me? Amen. But by God, they got them a big audience out there that's giving them big bucks, telling them how God will fix them. But I'll tell you, you let their kid get sick. Whoa! You understand? It preaches. You can preach it out there on that TV, or you can preach it like that different than you live it. And what I'm telling you is speak what you live in and get your living squared away. Okay? What I'm going to talk, my subject today is words. The Gospel of John says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And I'm going to add something to that. Stop turning him back into words, in fleshing. The Word, the concept, the ideal of God became flesh. It's not a spoken word, became flesh anyway. And he dwelled among us. Stop turning back into words. We're just a bunch of motor mouths, you know. That's a guy that stood up here and talked to you all week saying that. But it's a real problem communicating with words. Do y'all know that? Yes. I'm going to take my time today helping you understand that words may be the worst means of communicating on this earth, and it's the most popular. We don't even know how other things communicate anymore. We've got so caught up in communicating with words. Do you know that the Hebrew language only had 4,000 words in it when Jesus walked this earth? You and I have hundreds of thousands of words. There was things that communicated more than words to those ancient people. Symbols did. Nature did. And we've lost that communication, most of us have. We don't see the communication that comes from other things other than words. And everybody in here, though, knows it. How many of you got a wife that'll put her hands on her hips and go, boy, that communicates, doesn't it? Big time communication, and always true. And you could look at her and say this, well, what's the matter with you? And she'd say, nothing. Now, how good did the word communicate? Didn't communicate a bit. It communicated a lie. I'll tell you, the stance said there's something wrong. And the word said nothing's wrong. You know, that's the worst way that my wife ever, the most violent my wife ever was to me was the silent treatment. I could walk in the house at times and just the air, you could cut it. You walk in and you knew when the door slammed behind you, there's something wrong in this atmosphere. There's an atmospheric pressure here that's unfamiliar. And so you walk in and here's wife standing over there at the kitchen sink and you say, honey, is anything the matter? Nothing. Horrible communication. Folks, plenty's the matter. It's obvious. You understand? But words are a horrible way of communicating. Now, they can be very good. When your words and the way you are consistent with one another, words is probably a sacred way to communicate. But when your words are one way and you're another, what's that called in the Bible? A hypocrite. When your words are one way and your actions are another, it's hypocrisy. And I think one day in here I mentioned that a true education is one who has stripped himself of all convention, all superstition, and all hypocrisy. You communicate the way it is, you know. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with being ticked off. Somebody walks up to you and says, how you doing? Say, I'm really ticked. There's nothing wrong with that. You show me anybody that'll tell you they've never been ticked off, and I'll show you a big liar. 3 or 4 times a day, you know. Especially you get to doing this kind of work, you know, because people are out to shoot you down anyway, and it'll tick you off for a while, you know, and you'll work it out and understand it and say, well, you know, if they tell me I'm a sow's ear, does it mean I am one? No, it don't. Just like when y'all run up here and tell me how great I am, does it mean I'm great? No, bull stuff. It means you like what I said. You agree with me. When you disagree with me, you don't come up here, or if you do, you say something bad. And neither one of them has to do with the way I am. Who do you think you are, God? You know, that was wonderful, David. You know, I love to hear you say that. But you know what? It doesn't mean it's wonderful. Maybe a big crock. Isn't that the truth? So why do you let other people tell you what you are and control your life? Get out of that. And the only thing it takes to get out of it's understanding. Nothing else. They tell me I'm a jerk. It don't mean I'm a jerk. But you're going to have to always remember this. When they tell you how wonderful you are, it don't mean you're wonderful. You won't get one without the other. They're going to go together. Okay? All right. There's a story about a young man that walked out of his house with his friends. It's a beautiful, clear night. The moon was full, and he pointed and he said, look at the moon. And he turned and looked at everybody, and they were looking at his finger. That's what words are. Words are pointers that point to something. And if you only focus on the word, you miss it. They're pointers. They're symbols. They point to something. Do y'all know that? Which came first? Hatred or the word hatred? Hatred. And human beings tacked a word on it trying to describe it. But today we've got to the place where if we hate somebody, it's because we say it. No. Hatred is an action. It isn't saying you hate. And see, some of us think we don't hate anybody unless we say, I hate you. But I want to tell you, the rich man hated the poor man that lay at his gate. Didn't say a word to him. And never told anybody he hated him. Hatred blinds you. Hatred dulls your hearing. It dulls your seeing. And I'm not talking about these eyes and these ears. Okay? Can you get drunk on the word wine? Somebody in here start saying the word wine. Let's see if you can say it enough you fall out of your chair. Remember, all we're seeking to do is to understand. You can't say the word wine enough to get drunk, can you? Isn't that interesting? So what does it mean when somebody says, I love you? It means they got vocal cords. That's what it means. It does not mean they love you. If you want to know if somebody loves you, watch them. Don't listen to their mouth. That sucker will lie to you. What does it mean when somebody says, I forgive you? Got vocal cords. You can't get drunk on the word wine, and you can't love anybody with the word love. And you can't forgive anybody with the word forgive. You understand? This is really serious stuff. Most of us, our whole life, the way we love people is we say it. I love you. You girls in here know that there's guys will tell you they love you when they don't. They're seeking to manipulate you and to control you. I love you. And they come in with a big bouquet of flowers. Oh, yes. You understand? Words are an absolute sacrilege when they're used to manipulate and control people. When words are used to make people fear you, we do that too, don't we? I've always been good at that. You know, I got a loud voice. And you can just scare the dickens out of somebody with a loud voice. You don't have to raise a hand at them or nothing. Just look mean and yell. Well, think about it. Words, real problem. I'm going to talk to you about a few words. I'm going to try to take us, they're going to be scripture words, and they're going to be words that today have become ecclesiastical words. They're church words. If you were standing in a marketplace and heard one of these words, you'd know the people were involved with church. But when they were used 2,000 years ago to write scripture, they were common, everyday words. They were words that were used in the marketplace. Paul and Matthew, those guys didn't go get some special dictionary of church words and write the Bible. It was written in common, everyday language. And I'll tell you, to me, there's real revelation in getting back at what these words meant to those people, because they mean something totally different to most of us. And at the same time I say that, I'm not telling you to discard everything they mean to us today. I just want you to understand what they meant to the writer. It's really interesting reading Scripture when you understand what the word sin meant to Paul. The Apostle Paul never used the word plurally. He never says sins. To Paul, there was no such thing as sins. Now, me and you, when we say sins, we're talking about sins, aren't we? No, to him there was never any such thing as sins. It was only sin. Well, I wonder why. Well, I think you'll understand why when I talk to you a little bit. But I want you to begin to think the way I've got you thinking right now, that words are nothing but symbols. And if you don't get at what the symbol's pointing to, the words are meaningless. Doesn't mean a thing. Do you know what? The sacraments are symbols. And they point to something, and if you never get past the sacrament to what it points to, you miss it. And folks, we got a problem with that today. You know we have a problem with that? I wonder what the Eucharist points to. Or is it just I got baptized and I go to church every Sunday for a booster pill? No, it points to something. It points to the one true human that walked this earth and lived the way a true human should live. And when you receive him, you're agreeing to live like him. And if you don't, Paul said, if you're not in the process of learning to live as he lived, Paul says you eat and drink damnation to yourself. It's killing you.
That's right.
So the first word I'm going to talk about is the word faith. That's an ecclesiastical word, isn't it? If you ladies went down to the grocery store and you're standing by the vegetable bin and there's a group of ladies over there and you hear them say faith this, faith that, and faith the other, do you think they're talking about golfing? They're church people, aren't they? Well, let me tell you, when Paul used the word faith, it was not a church word. It was a common, everyday word. And the first thing I want to do is to move us out of the ecclesiastical word into an English word that has the same meaning. Can somebody give me a synonym of the word faith? What? Believe is probably the best. Your faith is, in its simplest form, what you believe. Everybody lives by what they believe. Everyone has that measure of faith. Now the problem with that is this. We can say that we believe something that our life will prove we don't believe. Now that's the problem, isn't it? So if you want to know what you really believe, you watch how you live. Don't listen to your mouth. That sucker will lie to you. You know, I have people all the time tell me they believe in Jesus, and when somebody slaps them, they pop them back. No, they don't believe in Jesus. Do they? Did Jesus get even with anybody? So there's your mouth saying that I believe in Jesus, and your body proving you don't. It's a real problem, isn't it? Listen to James, and that's exactly what I think James was talking about, and we've made something else out of it. James says, you tell me what your faith is, Dick. I'll show you mine by what I do.
That's right.
It's a big joke, a person that tells you what their faith is. Because, and I'm not talking about lying to somebody maliciously. I'm talking about your life just being one, and you've been taught that this is the way you're supposed to be, and you start speaking the way you're supposed to be, and your life proves you don't believe it at all. You haven't spent 6 months out of 50 years trying to live it. Do you understand? Faith that is not proven by its works, the way you live, is what? It's bad. It's dead faith. It's bad faith. It's still faith, folks. He doesn't say it's not faith. Faith that is not proven by its works is dead. So, you know, I often I've pictured myself being in a situation where, sitting in a room like this, people ask everybody that's a Christian to raise their hand. If you ever do that to me again, I'm not going to raise mine. I'm going to say to the person speaking, when my hand goes up, you're going to have to let me get up and explain. I won't explain. There's people that call themselves Christians I don't want to raise my hand with. You understand? I want to explain. So I'd rather sit there without raising my hand than to just raise my hand in a crowd of 1,000 people saying, yeah, I'm a Christian. Because Christians believe in everything that the world believes in. Christians believe in everything the devil believes in. Right? Okay. So that's what I want you to do with the word faith. I want you to know that if you want to know what you believe, quit listening to your mouth. See, it's not only lying to me, it's lying to you. You start observing the way you live. And when the guy down the road threatens to sue you, instead of running down to court and suing him, and you're watching, you may find yourself saying, you know what, I better go down there with my brother and try to work this thing out. He's really upset with me. Now that's what a Christian would do. And what most of those folks calling them Christians do, run hire a lawyer. They don't go talk to him at all. Matter of fact, as soon as he gets the lawyer, what will the lawyer tell him first time? Don't you communicate with that sucker. I'll communicate with you. First thing he'll tell you. And I'm going to tell you, a Christian goes and communicates with the person that's got a problem with him. Okay? See, now, it's a real problem, isn't it, folks? It's a real problem. If you want to know what you believe, watch what you do. Because you go to church on Sunday don't mean you're Christian. Just like me going into that barn don't make me a horse. Okay? You may be just parroting everything you've been told and living diametrically opposed to it. So here's my challenge to everybody in here as you, from this moment on, if you want to know what you believe, watch how you live. Don't listen to your mouth. And you'll find, a lot of you will find out you believe in magic. Oh yeah, you'll discover real quick, oh my God, this is hocus pocus I'm involved in. This is superstition I'm involved in. You know, I know Christians with as much voodoo in their life as Haitians got. I mean, real hocus pocus stuff, you know. There's never been anybody that prayed this novena 9 times that their prayer wasn't answered. That's a lie. Oh, boy, I know people that live by it. I know groups I could say that in front of them and I might get killed. In mine in your church. Get honest with yourself. If you prayed it 9 times asking your husband to change and the sucker's still the same? Get honest, folks. That's superstition. Boy, I see some people sitting there. Well, I'm glad this is Thursday. Folks, it's superstition. And now you understood what I was talking about. Well, if you're not careful, you'll destroy all my faith. Well, I'm going to tell you, just let that one be ripped apart.
Amen.
And you know, the people in here that believe in it know it. I'm going to share with you a story. This has happened to me this year. I had a lady friend that I've known a long time. Her brother died. And she called me up and asked me to come to her house. I went over to her house, and the lady is, you cannot imagine how distraught the lady is. And I said, Mary, what is the problem? She said, well, David, you know that Charlie, when he got married 50 years ago, he married a Presbyterian girl, and from that day forward, he never stepped back into the Catholic Church. He says, I know he went to hell. He says, it just got me so upset. And she says, you know what, David? I prayed a novena every day for 50 years for him, and I was told that if I prayed that novena, he'd come back to the church, and he didn't come. And he's gone to hell. I said, Mary, I got good news. Or here, I let Mary answer the question. I said, Mary, she had another brother. This one brother and the other brother. And I'm not going to mention any names. These are popular people. I says, tell me about what kind of person the brother that just died was. He says, he was the most wonderful guy in our family. David, he was the most kind, compassionate person. Matter of fact, she had never married. What do you call them? A spinstress. What do you call her? A spinster, okay. She had never... a spinster's, no. An old maid, yeah. Thank God for cards. But anyway, she said, matter of fact, he's left me enough money that I'm comfortable. He was the most kind person. And I says, now tell me a little bit about your other brother who was Catholic, and I'm going to tell you some things about him. He had a seat in the front row, left-hand seat in the corner. And when he walked in and somebody was in it, he walked up to him and said, you know where you're sitting, don't you? You're in my seat. I've seen him do that with strangers just that loud, folks, the whole church. I've seen him interrupt the pastor when he didn't like what he was saying, doing the homily. Now this guy's all right. He died and went to heaven. She's really upset about the other guy. The kind, compassionate, generous.
Amen, brother.
But I prayed that, David, I prayed it for 50 years, every day.
Wrong brother.
Now, the only thing folks, I'm not trying to talk you out of praying, and I'm not even telling you that where that came from was bad. That's not what I'm doing. I'm telling you when it becomes a superstition and it becomes something magic in your life, it's evil. Okay? And all I ask you is get honest about it. If you have questions about that, try it out. See, I tried it. And I just got honest. That's one thing that's guided my life to standing here today. I just got honest about what really did things in my life and what really didn't. Y'all know that has to be God. What's real is God, isn't it? Okay. Now, y'all, little levity in the group here. Get all upset. It's all right. And y'all know I could be wrong. And the day that I believe it, I'll stand up in front of this group and admit it. I was wrong. But I'll tell you right now, and after 15 years of looking at this, I think it's right.
I think it is too.
Okay. Now, the next word I'm going to talk a little bit about is sin. Now, you know, I'm sure all of us in here know what sin is. But 2,000 years ago, it was a common, everyday word. If you walked into that same marketplace today and these ladies are over there talking about sin, you know they're church ladies, don't you? They're not talking about golf. They could have been talking about golf 2,000 years ago if there was golf around. You know that? Matter of fact, I'll give you a sin in golf. There's a lot. A guy's got a 30-foot putt, and there's the hole. He lines, and it goes 3 feet to that side. He says, oh, shucks, I sinned. That's absolutely the way the word's used. He sinned. Or let me give you couple of ancient guys walking down the road from Jerusalem to Jericho, and a rabbit runs out in front of them. And they draw their lances back, and they pitch it at the rabbit, and one guy turns to the other and says, oh, shucks, we sinned. What's he saying? Miss the rabbit. Y'all know that was a sin? It's a sin to miss the rabbit, if that's what you're aiming at. Y'all know that? That's what the word sin means. To aim at something and miss. To miss the mark that you're aimed at. That's what sin is. That's what the word sin is. To miss the mark. That's why the Apostle Paul never uses it plural. He uses it singular. Sin. When you aim at something and you miss it, it's sin. All the little paths that you take along the way is not the sin. Missing the mark's the sin. Okay? Okay, so we're gonna use the formula that I used earlier and decide what's a Christian aimed at. You'll know what sin is. You know, the second day I said all religion comes from a question. What kind of God is God if he exists, and what does he require of me if anything? I'm going to change the question a little bit because you and I have something so profound to say about God. We say that God became a person, an individual, like me. So instead of saying what kind of God is God, I'm going to ask the question like this. I'm going to say, who is God? And I would like y'all to answer. Please don't be timid. Who is God?
Jesus.
Jesus is God. Well, I'm going to ask it one more time. Some of us don't know the answer yet, and our whole class is about understanding. Right? Who is God?
Jesus.
Jesus is God. That's an awesome statement, isn't it? That's what you and I believe. We believe Jesus is God. God has been perfectly revealed in human form to you and I. Isn't that an amazing thought? Now, since he was a unique individual, he had something unique to say about what we should do. Who is God and what does he require of me? Somebody tell me the unique command of Jesus Christ.
Love.
That isn't the unique command, because now it's just a word, love, and you can define the word. He said it in a way where you don't get to define it. Love everyone as I have loved you. He is love. You know what? He knew the word problem. That's why it's said that way. He didn't say love one another, because then Michael can determine what love is. He can give his definition of love. You understand? No, he said love one another as I have loved you. All of a sudden, love becomes a particular person. Now, could somebody in here tell me what sin is? When you don't love as Jesus, it's sin. That's what sin is. And that's what sin was to Paul. Now, folks, stealing, lying, cheating, adultery, greed, anger, they are the fruits of missing that mark. They are not the mark missed. Now, what if you spent your whole life trying to stop lying, trying to stop adultery, trying to stop this, trying to stop that, and they are not the problem. They are the sign that there is a problem. The problem is that we're not loving as Jesus. Let me say this to you. Any action that its motivator is fear is never love. A lot of us Christians, that's all that motivates us, fear. Go to church because I'm afraid of going to hell. That's a sin.
That's right.
You got a little different idea of what sin is? The mark that a Christian aims at is to love just as he loved. So if you want to know what love is, meditate on Jesus, think about Jesus, and conform your life to his. And when you don't love as him, admit it. You just admit it. I'm not loving as he loves. I've never met anyone yet that didn't have the problem of not loving as Jesus. Amen. Everybody's got the problem. Okay? And you spend the rest of your life meditating on him and letting him reveal to you what love is. For he is the only teacher. Folks, if y'all listen to me like I'm your teacher, you forget it. I'm just bringing a little bit of understanding into your life where you might be able to doubt some of the ways you've been living. There's something good in doubt. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to admit you're wrong. Okay? And if you're not careful, you'll live a life of discovering people that's worse than you and thinking they're the problem. You know, one of the things that interested me when I got to working with drug addicts a little was that I knew a few of them that got married, and they always went and found somebody worse than they were. Because it makes you think you're all right. Well, they're worse than me. Boy, what a mess they are. Whoa. But I'll fix them. Is there any wives in here fixed your husbands? Any husband fix a wife? I have people come to me and they want to talk to me. They're going to get married. And I tell them, I say, you know what? This is the best time of your life. They say, what you talking about? I says, oh, as soon as you get married, you're going to hate each other right quick. What? I'll tell you, anybody in here can identify with that? Don't raise your hands. Buddy, when y'all were courting each other, it was next to bliss. Oh my God. I mean, this guy thinks I am it. And after you're married about a year, he thinks that God sent you along to rob him. Jeez, I can't make enough money to keep that woman mauling. God, what a mauler she is. Didn't know anything about her mauling before, did you? And I'd like to say to everybody in here, whoever your spouse is, that's exactly the one you're supposed to have.
That's right.
And if you'll learn to love them, it'll sanctify you.
Right.
Getting rid of them won't sanctify you a bit. I believe in never giving up, but I've give up on you, sucker. You understand? And I'm not even telling a woman that's getting beat up every day to live with a sucker. I'm not telling you that. No, hang around there and let him beat you up. That's dumb. You know. Go live with Charlie and let him stop beating you up. You know, come over. But I'm telling you, they'll do it. I had a good friend of mine walk into my house one day. Her husband's a college professor, and he's running around the house shooting a gun at her. Bow, 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 bow. She comes to my house and tells me the story, and I says, well, let's go get your bags and move over here into my house. She says, oh no, I got to go home. He loves me so much. Folks, he don't love her. He hates her guts. You don't run around shooting at somebody you love. And you don't lie to somebody you love.
Right.
And you don't hide things from somebody you love. And you don't sneak around on somebody you love. But we'll do all those things, and then when we're feeling just right, we'll say, I love you. You're so wonderful. And 3 hours later, she says, where you been? And you say, big lie. I want to tell you, folks, get honest. You don't love a person you treat like that. Love don't lie to folks. Oh, you can lie to somebody and say, I love you. It's a serious problem, isn't it? Serious problem. If you don't believe words is a problem, ask a lawyer. How many of them have drawn up an ironclad contract for you? Well, everyone ever drew up a contract for me, it was ironclad until it was contested, and then I found out it was full of holes. That's what words do for you, and it's the same problem we're talking about. Well, the word didn't mean that to him, and it didn't mean that to the judge. Pay. Oh. But you said, well, you know, I'm not God. That's after you've paid him, he tells you that. Hope there's no lawyers sitting there. Y'all are in a real peculiar profession. There's some tasks to be done on this earth that it's real hard to hit the mark and do them. And I would suggest, if you're any of us that are in those tasks, give up your job so you can hit the mark.
Amen.
Hey, loving as Jesus has to become number one. Okay? Another word. How about the word saved? Nice word, isn't it? You know, you ever have people ask you if you're saved? And I'm not making fun of that. It's just kind of another one of those superstitious things, you know. If I tell you I'm saved, it means I am. You know what it means when somebody tells you they were saved December the 24th of 1932? It means they got vocal cords. Folks, it's what it means. If you took the Greek word for saved, and you know I told you that the Hebrews had 4,000 words, the Greek had 10. And we have hundreds of thousands of words. The word saved in Greek, if you looked up the word sozo, which word, the first word by it in an English lexicon would be safe and secure. Are you safe and secure? I don't want anybody answering that. Just answer it in your head. And you know what? There's people in here that are a little bit safe, and there's people that are a little bit more safe and secure, and there's people a little bit more and a little bit more. There's all kinds of stages there. That's why this is a process. But I want to ask you, how safe are you if you lost all your money? Now you'll find out, well, I'm safe sometimes in Jesus, and other times I'm safe in my money. My money makes me safe. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you know what? The thing that'll really save you, you know, the Word of God is the power of God for salvation. The love of God will make you safe and secure without money, even facing death.
Amen.
Now, folks, when you're facing death, there's one thing you know. Your money's done failed you. I mean, you can call the doctor in and say, hey, doc, you know, you said my heart's about to die on me. What, you know, I want another one. He said, well, you can't have one. Well, some people get them. Well, okay, we'll give you another one. Give me $150,000, we'll give you another heart. Whew, thank God I saved this money up. Ooh. You pay him off, and he puts you another one in. You walk around for 10 years, and you walk in one day, and he says, that sucker's give out to you. He says, well, Duck, here's another $150,000. Give me another one. He says, well, you can't take another one. Your body's destroyed, and he dies. Leaves his money. And there's something that'll make you safe and secure all the time.
That's right.
And it's loving as Jesus loved. Everything else will fail you, folks. Your insurance policies are going to fail you. You're going to die. The kids are going to get the money, and they're going to fight. You understand? And that's the very message of Jesus. Blessed are the poor. They can be saved this way. Everybody can be saved, become safe and secure through loving. Money don't do it. Material things don't do it. But you know how you think about losing those things, and my God, you get nervous? It's because you're not safe. What would I do without a car? Probably get along fine. Most people that walk the earth have. What would I do without a house? Get along fine. Most people that walk the earth have. You know, after 2,000 years of civilization, us more civilized people go to bed at night and lock our doors and our windows. Turn that system on, boy. I'm going to sleep good. I'm going to sleep safe and secure. Lay down and go to sleep. While those less civilized people sleep in huts with no doors or windows. Who's civilized?
Who's saved?
Who's saved? But woe to you rich.
Amen.
You understand? It's hard for a rich man to be saved because he's learned how to be saved by all kinds of other things. I can do it. You just give me enough money. Of all the people that ever walked into my office, and I'm talking about thousands of them, and I say, what can I do to help you? They won't talk to me for 5 minutes before they say something about money. There's not a blooming one of them walk in there and say, well, if you just love me, everything would be all right. No, they talk a little bit, and pretty soon they say, well, I need. And they'll give me a dollar figure. Money is the god of this world.
Amen.
You understand? Oh, and folks, it'll make you safe and secure for certain things. Yeah, you can get you a house, and you can get you a car, and you can get you this, and you can get you that, and you can get you the other. But then when somebody robs you, or when the buzzer goes off at night, you're laying in bed and it goes, whoop, 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 whoop. Oh, my God, who's that? And you grab a pistol and run out and shoot your kid climbing in through the window. And you laugh, that goes on. Oh, Dad, you know, you've really hurt me here. I knew I wasn't supposed to go out, but... Well, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
Let me give you a definition of forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't a word. To fight with your spouse and then 3 days later walk in and say, honey, forgive me, that's not forgiveness. You're tired of sleeping on the couch. You're tired of not having mama up close to you. Tired of the friction in the house, you know, so you walk in and say, honey, forgive me, and you get back in the bed. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is when one of two contending parties stops contending and begins to do good to the other. You just stop contending and begin to do good. Well, go ahead and do it your way. I'm going to cooperate with you anyway. You go ahead and do it that way. It's all right with me if you do it that way. And I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to stay in communion with you. You understand? I mean, you walk in the house and your wife has had a bad day and maybe it's the wrong time of month, whatever it is, and she is really ticked. The bug man didn't come. The roaches are eating you out of house and home, and you walk in and you're the only... She's fussed at that bug man all day. And you walk in the house and you're it, Mac. It's been a horrible day. The roaches are knee-deep, and I've told you not to put me in a place where roaches were. Starts chewing you out. You say, well, honey, you're right. They're nearly knee-deep. And I'll help you clean these dishes up while you tell me what a jerk I am. Because you're probably right. I sure don't do things right. Instead of the way we used to do it. You jerk, you boom. As soon as she takes a breath, you say, well, by God, you're no saint. Let me tell you a little bit about you. If you kept the food off of these floors, probably wouldn't be any roaches in here. That's the way we normally do it. Folks, if you want to forgive somebody, when two people begin to contend, one of them stops and begins to do good to the other, that's forgiveness. It is not fighting. 3 days later, walking up, because things are miserable, you don't even like to walk in the house and you say, honey, would you please forgive me? Trying to get back what you've lost in the argument. See, doing it to get something back. Not forgiveness, not love. Folks, please remember this as I close. Anything you do that's not done in love isn't worth doing. I don't care what you are. I'll tell you, I picked on the lawyers a little bit. You show me a lawyer that's a lover, good lawyer. And you show me a doctor that's a lover, good doctor. You show me a doctor that don't love the people, he might as well quit doctoring. I sure do love you, and it's been really good being with you this week. God bless you.